Facebook here. So welcome to Refresh Friday. And today we've got Andy MacLeay. Thank you, Andy, for joining us today.
Yes, Andy MacLeay.
Yeah, I know. You threw in an extra R in there.
MacLeay.
It's MacLeay. It's okay.
I don't know, Andy. That sounds pretty good. Like MacLeay from here on out, buddy.
I just figured that's got more of a pizzazz, some extra pizzazz. So it almost sounds like
all right. Give me the old razzle dazzle.
No, thanks for joining us, Andy. So I know we'll have a lot of fun today. I think we're just going to get into some topics around digital marketing. Of course, we'll keep it light. Talk about some of the different threads over in the DealerRefresh forums. I know we've had some hot topics this week that have sort of blown up real quick. So, but before we get started, just a quick shout out and thanks to our sponsor this week, Call Review. And if you get the opportunity, if you jump over to DealerRefresh, you'll see one of their ads. And if you click on that ad, you will be sent to a landing page. And this is their volume 5 of Fix the Phone. So it's a free download. Just give up your first name, last name, email address, and you'll get a free copy of Call Review's volume 5 of their Fix the Phone publication. So I've got a copy of it myself. I've already worked my way through it. Some great information, some great data, great stats. So please jump over to DealerRefresh, click on that ad, and fill out the information. Here's the page, and go ahead and download it. I mean, no matter what, any type of education is great education. And when it comes down to what's happening on the phone, I'm not too familiar with too many dealerships out there that don't need some help on the phone. That's for sure.
Every dealership
they probably call it Fix the Phones.
Actually, we did a Refresh Friday with Call Review about this, and it was quite a good show.
It was a great show. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, they definitely have some good info in there.
Yeah, and then if you want to go back and watch that one, you probably catch it on Facebook, but we also have it on YouTube. So feel free to jump over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. And again, the whole library of all of our Refresh Fridays since what, January, February, are up.
February, yeah.
Yeah, so give it a shot. So again, Andy, thanks for joining us. Digital marketing.
Thank you.
Mr. MacLeay.
Hey, listen, I get MacLeay, people add letters, remove letters all the time. It's fine. There's some like capitalization in the middle. I'm just going to blame my Scottish ancestors for making my name.
We'll just call you Andy Mac.
Yeah, Andy Mac. That happens all the time. That's a pretty common one for sure.
So I asked you, before we went live, I had asked you, hey, what are some of the topics that maybe you want to discuss today? And you were throwing a couple different options around, and one of them was right around personalization.
Yeah.
Dive into that. What exactly do you mean, like, when we're talking about digital marketing, car dealerships, being a salesperson, maybe in service as well? What's your definition of personalization, and how would a dealership or a salesperson or someone at the dealership utilize this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Jeff. I think for us, it's, personalization, I think, is more than like a technical solution per se, is as much kind of a philosophy about how do you interact with car shoppers throughout the entire sort of purchase cycle, right? So, but for me, it comes down to, how do I provide a car shopping experience that removes some of the clutter that is normally inside of this shopping process. I mean, we know that, just shopping for a car, we do it so much that it's almost second nature for us in our business. We're always shopping for cars, but for consumers, can be pretty intimidating, right? There are a lot of options. It's a huge purchase to make. And I think that anything you can do to sort of remove some of that clutter from the shopping experience is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. And you see sort of all over, it doesn't matter if it's Google or if it's Facebook or wherever, you're rewarded when you're sort of providing content that's relative to, what somebody's looking for.
Okay.
So, you kind of get what I'm saying there. Like, this is like, how do we make this shopping experience smoother, better, and more relevant to what somebody's looking for? And kind of that could take a number of different forms.
So what you mean by personalization is making sure that you're personalizing that experience for that particular customer, maybe based on the type of customer that they are, from maybe just from the way they start shopping, maybe from the way they contacted you. Was it a phone call? Was it email? Did they just walk into the dealership, etc.? Is that exactly what you're referring to? And just personalizing that experience for the customer.
Yeah, and I think just as much as, as it is the experience, it has a lot to do, sort of where we have control over a bunch of that process is, what is the content that you're sort of serving up to your customers throughout this experience?
What are some good ideas? I mean, what have you seen out there that sort of have, where you're like, wow, this is a really good differentiator?
Yeah, that's it.
Examples that a dealership can maybe do to really personalize that experience?
Yeah, sure. I think, one of the things, sort of like the simplest sort of example of this happening is, car shoppers don't know that there's, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, like that doesn't exist. I've tried to explain that to my mother, and it's like brain blowing. She's like, wait, the dealers and the OEMs, they don't talk to each other all the time. And the car shop, like it just doesn't, that concept doesn't like exist to like a normal car shopper. It makes super sense to all of us kind of in this forum here, but
I don't, it still doesn't make sense to me.
I know, totally. That's like,
I'm on like tier 6 marketing. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing, right? You're like, well, why are you not sort of sharing? I go start my shopping process.
Yeah, none of it passes the say it out loud test.
Yeah. Exactly. What's the say it out loud test? Can you tell me?
If you say it out loud and it doesn't sound right, it doesn't pass. So yeah, if you try to explain tier 1, tier 2.
Alex, there's no way you ever use that rule. No way.
No, I usually just blurt it out and it doesn't pass, period.
Yeah. So
I mean, you would become a mute.
So Jeff, sort of back to kind of where do we see this playing out? We have partnerships with OEMs, we have the dealer websites, in and of themselves. People may shop for a vehicle starting at a tier 1 site, right, and move through tier 2 down to the tier 3, the dealer's website where the actual inventory exists. And if you can observe the shopping behaviors and tailor the content as they move throughout that process in a way that makes sense for the dealer and makes sense for the shopper, you can give people the inventory that they might be looking for faster. So change the website experience. You can, drive people to a transaction sort of faster that way as well. And so that's kind of just one very small example. But I think, very sort of quickly here, we're going to see, personalizing, the advertising experiences for people. I think personalization comes inside of the retailing process online as well. All of those things, I think, if we're looking at sort of, key indicators of what's going to shape sort of the next year of digital marketing trends, it's going to be that. And it's already happening outside of automotive, right? It happens.
How would we personalize? How would we personalize our marketing from a digital standpoint?
From a digital standpoint, well, I mean,
we're online.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hate the word digital. It just sounds weird.
It really,
there's so many terms.
It is just,
it's our fault because, our industry, we're the ones that sort of come up with these wacky terms, such as, get your internet price, the internet manager. What the hell's an internet manager? I mean, it's pretty bad when you actually get phone calls from customers asking to speak to the internet manager. Really? We manage the internet.
Right.
As somebody who's into audio,
get your e-price. What the frick is an e-price?
As somebody who's into audio, all that digital talk years ago, as all these things were being defined, I always think, in opposed to what? The analog?
Yeah. Yeah. Can't get your analog experience.
It's so true. And you know what's so funny though is, you know, one of the good things about my job is I get to talk to a ton of dealers, you know, sort of bring back that information inside the walls of dealer.com and, you know, hopefully influence some decisions about what we make on products. But you would not be, you know, just like running down this line, you would be shocked how many times I hear the word internet customer as a definition for a type of, shopper. And we just all have to be like, guys, they're all internet customers, man. Every single one of them. This is not like some sort of spooky type of shopper still. And it's crazy that, you know, we still sort of talk about that, but it's true for sure.
So back to the question, I mean, what are some examples of personalizing your marketing for a particular, and would you do it for a particular subset of customers or almost a one-to-one?
Sure. I think that, you know, like I said before, you can sort of tailor the content that shows up on the website, perhaps even as you know that a person is looking for a particular piece of inventory, you would be able to serve up inside of a website a special or an incentive that's on the particular type of vehicle that they're looking for. So, I mean, you could think how that might work pretty quickly. You know, they're looking, you know, they're moving throughout the tiers, looking at, let's just say like Toyota Camrys, right? Just something sort of generic there. You very likely are going to want to, if you want to sort of instill action, and you know, this is up for debate here, but if this person is spending a lot of time on VDPs and SRPs looking for Toyota Camrys, it might behoove you to serve up a special somewhere inside of that experience, right? That is going to provide something, an incentive for them to take action, whether that be, you know, leave a lead, make a phone call, start a transaction, whatever it is.
Well, I know back in the day, and I guess this technology is pretty dated at this point, but you know, there were a couple of providers out there that would change up that homepage image, the main image, you know, based on what they were looking at prior hand. I know Cobalt or CDK,
just
Cobalt, whatever. I know. But, if I'm not mistaken, you were actually one of the first because they had so many strategic relationships. And to know if a customer, I think they had one with Edmunds. So the customer was shopping a particular make and model on Edmunds, and they came over to your dealership website, it would render on the homepage that particular make and model. And not only would it do that, but it would go ahead and in the search, it would go ahead and pre-populate the make and model, which I always thought that was pretty interesting.
So that's definitely, like, that is a flavor of personalization. Like you said, that kind of personalization has been around for like a little bit, and you know, changing up a homepage hero banner, questionable results, right? Like, I mean, I think it's neat, and you know, it's one of the things that we offer and we can do, but really you need to personalize that experience throughout the whole website experience. And another thing here, Jeff, too, that, you know, that you kind of just piqued me on is, you know, if websites are moving from being just like an informational gathering portal to, you know, which is kind of what they've been, right? It's like the last bastion of like, hey, look at the inventory that you want, but then leave your name and number and we'll call you back, and like we'll start walking you through the process. I think that, you know, there are a lot of different places that people would be willing to start transacting at least a little bit on the vehicles. And so, you know, at Cox Automotive, sort of the properties that we have, you know, control over in that regard is you can sort of start the purchase process and on Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, right? And then that sort of deal will be able to follow you through to the tier 3 website, right? So the payments, all of those pieces are all accurate, look the same, which no lie, it's crazy to say that like the first step of having like any sort of digital retailing is to get accurate payments on a website. But it's wild. It's like brain breaking, but that's like a heavy lift. And I can tell you that, there are a number of providers out there that do this, and just like sort of cracking that and getting consistency across those shopping sites. It's a big deal, right? Like it's actually trickier than you think. But that said, like if you can create a consistent experience across those shopping experiences, that to me is also personalization, right? That's having somebody be like, hey, listen, I recognize and I trust sort of these brand names, and I'm moving through to the dealer website where the vehicle is that I want to buy. Everything sort of feels consistent to me. Yeah. I'm building a little bit of trust.
We use a service, Auto Lead Star, which I'm not saying Auto Lead Star because of one of our advertisers, even though they are, but I also use their product, and they do some of the same things around that. And you mentioned that earlier. If the customer is looking at a particular model and they've hit maybe 3 or 4 different VDPs, their technology looks at that and at any given time can present that customer a special on that particular model that they've looked at. It's pretty slick.
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, they transferred it over to mobile as well. But it's one of those plugins.
Yeah, I've got a question on that front that you bring it up.
What would that be, Alex?
So, and this might be one that I don't know if the 3 of us can answer it. Probably not. But I'll throw this out.
There's somebody on here watching at this moment that is going to chime in if we can.
I hope so. No, I'm asking them to in the Facebook comments. Take a guess. How many plugins do you think the average dealer has on his or her website?
As in, like, a service of products, like a trade-in.
Oh yeah, it could be anything that's not provided by the website provider directly.
How many plugins on average does a dealership website have that's not a part of the company that provides the website itself?
Well, like you just said,
probably,
so in your website you have Auto Lead Star.
We got 1, 2, Chat's one, yeah. Auto Lead Star 2. We've got the trade-in through trade pending.
Maybe a credit app.
Sometimes, yeah.
Some people still use that talking lady.
That's
the one that comes out from the side.
Yeah, shout out to David Metter on that one.
Hey, we're personalizing the experience.
What about Google Analytics? That's a plugin.
Guys, you want to blow your brains?
Not particularly, but
every Friday.
Every Friday, go put on Ghostery on your website if you are a dealer.
Yeah.
And you will see exactly how many tags are firing from your site, right? And it will also show you who the people are. What it does not show you, and I want to be crystal clear about this, is it doesn't tell you anything about what's inside of those tags. Right? So like you can know, like you can see and sort of figure out, what's going on, from sort of, a conceptual standpoint, and maybe who the people are that you've put that tag on. But like, there can be scripts inside of those tags that like, like who knows what's going on. And
it's called Ghostly
forums. Ghostery. Yeah.
Spell that out, and it's just .com.
Yeah.
Someone linked to that within the DealerRefresh forums. I forget.
Yeah. You can if you've got Chrome or whatever, you can just like pop that up as an extension on Chrome.
Oh, really?
Yep.
There's another one called Built With that's been used.
Maybe that's the one I use.
Forums. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dave Pye is showing it in the comments. So.
Oh, okay. Pye's on?
Yeah, Pye's. Of course he is. You're on. Dave Pye follows you everywhere, Andy.
So it's builtwith.com. Yeah.
That's a good one too, for sure. But I think it comes back to, Alex, we were kind of talking back and forth earlier this week about sort of these tags and what's going on, like who's sharing my data and all of that. And I think that it's a good topic to chat about, because if I was gonna guess on how many tags were on just like a general dealer site, just run of the mill, right, and not even sort of third party applications, I bet you that there's like 10 or 15 on average at the very least. Go to a news site though, and you'll see the craziest sort of craziest tag script that pops out. You go to like Fox News or CNN or any of those guys are sharing data with like everybody on planet Earth. but
So I just ran a builtwith.com. I just ran it on our dealership website.
Cool.
And yeah, that's interesting to see. Trade pending, auto lead star. Ironically, they're the two I just mentioned right there up top. Google conversion, analytics, Fastly.
Who are those guys?
Well, that could be
real-time analytics.
Part of some other one of these other plugins are using something.
Totally. Like if you've got another like analytics provider that's on your website, like maybe they're sharing data or pulling third-party data from somewhere.
And that's exactly the issue going on in the forums right now, where Jeffrey Tognetti from DealerX had shown where a certain provider, we'll leave them nameless at this time, but they are using a technology that may or may not be sending pretty much everything that's happening on the dealer's website, anything they can capture, over to Nielsen. So they're selling it to Nielsen, and then Nielsen is selling that back to probably other vendors that are then selling it to other dealers directly.
Yeah. It's tricky, right? And I think that it comes back to and honestly for us, it's not like we've had some challenges, with third-party vendors or scripts that have been on our websites before, presented challenges to us, because we can't, we don't have as a tier 3 as a website vendor, we don't have any visibility into what's going on specifically inside of that tag. And, contractually at dealer.com, the dealer owns the website, and, based on, obviously there are program restrictions and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, if a dealer wants,
as long as the script isn't taking the site down or is malicious in some way, right? What can you say?
We don't have, exactly. If someone wants to put something on their site, that pretty much it's incumbent upon, so there's a challenge that's to the dealer, right? To know who your vendors are. And sometimes that takes asking a question, right? So what does this tag share with people that I'm going to put on my site? Instead of just randomly firing off a JavaScript to your digital specialist and saying hey, put this on here right now. And that goes that's both ways. You know what I mean? That definitely is something that, it's incumbent upon whoever it is to at least have a good explanation about what it is that they're.
I mean, it's almost to the point where, say I'm a car dealer, I've got to come up with my own agreement to make my own vendors sign as to how they used my data.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly, I don't want to, be a proponent of adding additional sort of red tape or contractual terms to the process of purchasing digital marketing, but at the very least you should have a process sort of in your store where there is some due diligence on the things that you're throwing on your website, because at the very least
that's a tall order, Andy.
I know.
I mean, Jeff, how could you do that? Is there anyone besides you who in the entire dealer group who might be able to look at a script and say, I'm not sure what that little thing is?
No. Yeah, you're asking if I would be the only one? Yeah, I would be the only one.
I mean, I'm not sure I could look at something and identify it.
You could.
So,
I bet you probably couldn't. Like you can.
I don't know. I bet you could, Alex. I mean, I guess it depends on the code itself, but I can typically look at something and
Seriously, Jeff, once that script is inside of that tag container, it's pretty opaque, right? So you've got to have some ability to, you know, talk with whomever the vendor is and kind of figure out what it is that they're sharing out of there. And honestly, like I don't want to like blow this up into like some sort of work, but
I can save you for a minute here, Andy.
Like
so you don't head down the hole at all.
No, I'm not in the hole. It's the truth.
But I think it's simple. The reason for the thread is not to call out this one vendor who's got their hand caught. It's more to bring it to dealers' attention that this stuff is happening.
Sure.
And if there's a way that we can help dealers better understand how to fight it, then that's what we're all about at DealerRefresh.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on the thread. This is not going to die anytime soon. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that do this. And I don't know how many are playing in the automotive space, but we're going to try and find out.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I don't think that, I wouldn't say that like the majority of this is out there and they think that they're like really trying to pull the wool over a dealer's eyes. I think that the majority of the time, like it's necessary to make their software solution work the way that they've kind of designed it. But it is incumbent upon the dealer, if you're purchasing something, I would say, just an additional little due diligence, because, we saw from that thread how easily, the dealer customer was to be able to sort of pull that data sharing from them once the vendor was notified that they didn't want to share that data. So, it's just it may be just worth a small question before you sign that agreement,
and follow it up with a little check on ghostery and built with.
Totally. And at the very least, guys, like we know that site speed is an important piece of kind of how SEO is being decided. And, all the time, we'll get, somebody that will say, hey, your site is running super slow or something like that, right? And we're like, we go on and we look at how many of these tags are running off of a site. Those things add weight to page speed, right? And so you've got to be kind of judicious about how much you want to sort of stack on that page, because it's going to slow down the page for loading, because all of those things need to load at the same time, right?
Sure do. Well, what about, I hate saying this word, attribution. And someone brought this up in the forums as well. We all want attribution. We all want to be able to see, this data and who should be getting credit for the sale. Some of this data that's being shared or resold to these larger agencies, does that go into attribution? Does that provide the ability to maybe see some of the attribution that all of us in the industry for some reason keep asking about?
So the answer probably is a mixed answer of, yes and no. Like, I definitely think that, if you want to have a global view of how, whatever XYZ is performing, you've got to sort of be able to track whatever it is that you're trying to measure there, right? So yeah, maybe like some of these agencies have tracking that rolls back up to sort of a global source there for sure. Where it kind of like, where I feel like it gets a little, I'm not so much worried about that as I am about, like selling that data off, or, you know what I mean? That just,
well, especially if the dealership isn't aware of it.
That feels like a different kettle of fish, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
and
pretty.
I think that we use our own proprietary tag across the properties that you know, do the very experiences that we're talking about Cox Automotive allowing you to do, right? You can follow those experiences across. We'll build audience segments on Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, that we can then, you know, push advertising to the tier 3 website before a customer even hits the tier 3 website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're advertising with us, you know, those tags help us build those audiences and help us build those experiences that kind of seamlessly move back and forth. And so there's got to be some way to do it. But again, it just comes back to, you know, you got to work with people that you trust and do a little bit of due diligence there.
Well, speaking of trust and safety, you had mentioned something earlier, and I was like, "What exactly are you talking about?" So I was like, you know, just hold it for whenever for Refresh Friday.
SEO safe word.
Yeah. So ad safety.
Wichita.
You had mentioned the term ad safety.
Yeah.
Elaborate, because, and that's why I was like, well, let's not talk about it now. Let's wait until we go live, because I hadn't heard of that term yet. So I would love to get the definition of this.
Yeah, and if there's like a copywriting opportunity on that term, I'm staking my claim to that right now.
Oh, then I'm taking SEO safe word.
all royalties can be paid to Andy MacLeay at Gmail. The fact of the matter is, guys, is, you know, we do a lot of advertising inside of the automotive industry, and globally, fraud is a big deal, right? And it's funny that we have to, you know, still talk about this, because back in the day, we all remember there was like click fraud that would happen, and now there's just burgeoning sort of sophistication to how people are basically robbing advertisers of their advertising dollars, whether that be through like non-human ways of doing it, which would be like your traditional sort of like click bots or what have you, or are there sort of more nefarious ways that they can do that. And so one of the things that we've made a pretty big investment on, which doesn't feel like super exciting, we're not like, hey, we're releasing you know, some sort of new like crazy video template for you guys to have inside. But what we've done is put in a ton of work into working with parties like White Ops and Tag to make sure that our systems, so when you're making this investment, right, this is another one of those kind of like trust things. When you're making an investment in dealer.com technology as your advertising partner, you're going to do everything that you can to prevent fraudulent activity from happening on my advertising campaigns. And so for us, you know, White Ops is crazy, right? Like, it's this company that that works really closely with sort of our 3-letter agency partners in the government to sort of fight what is ad fraud at like the international level. $6.5 billion globally.
What's the name of this company again?
White Ops.
White Ops.
Yep. And then we also have a partnership with Tag, the trust and accountability group in advertising, and we're the only ones in the automotive space that has that certification right now. And so we had to, what we had to do was we had to basically open up our advertising platform to like a significant audit, a multi-year sort of process to get certified with Tag, where they basically go in and they're like, we just need to make sure that your ads aren't, you know, serving on places where they shouldn't be, like tobacco, you know, whatever. There's like a number of different spots. Also that, you know, such as like porn, tobacco, gun, you know what I mean? Like any of those sort of sites. And so, you know, that certification is one sort of, you know, stamp of approval from sort of a non-biased agency. Yeah, you can do like Tag certification, Tag certified maybe. Yeah, there you go. About the Tag certified.
Yeah, against fraud.
So yeah, so cool. That's, I'm glad they've got really good organic traffic and 0 paid search. Did you see that? But yeah, so we went through this whole process, and basically, for us, if you want just some like eye-opening numbers, we for ad impressions basically blocked starting in December. Yeah, so you can see. I don't know, what is Alexander showing here?
Well, I just brought this up because we were talking about, certification fraud, and Alex had started this thread not too long ago, and you mentioned in the beginning of this conversation around bots, and it clicked with me. I was like, I better bring this up, but it is interesting, and honestly, I didn't know there were good bots and bad bots. Never didn't realize it was sort of a category, but I get it. It makes sense, especially search engine bots, feed fetchers, commercial crawlers, versus scrapers, spammers, and hacker tools. So, it's just interesting to see that, half of your traffic is a bot.
And it's an interesting stat I like to watch on the DealerRefresh forums over on the right-hand side. And if you go back to the homepage of the forums, Jeff, you can see who's online right now. And it'll break down how many of them are bots. So just your profile photo there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So one of the crazy things that we've done inside of the dealer.com platform is when you look at, if you go into Control Center and you open up that back end and you click into the analytics, we've now got, it's just a simple little like toggle switch in the top right corner of analytics that says filter bots. And you click on the filter bots segment, like filter them out, and you can watch all of your stats change based on exactly that non-human traffic that you're talking about.
So you go from a nice smile to a nice frown. That's something that burns my ass because, when we look at this right now, 12 members online, 155 guests. Now, a lot of those guests could be members that just haven't logged in.
Or have a tab open or something like that.
Yeah, it could be a session that expired too, and yeah,
maybe, I don't know. I've never looked into it.
It might be me. I've always got it open.
Yeah, but hopefully you're logged in, right? So
I don't know. Do you see my name on there?
No.
Oh yeah. I'm totally fudging with the stats then.
Where to go?
Because I've got the tab
Alex.
right in front of me.
But just back to my point here, 12, robots, 38 guests, 155, and I'm just, real quick, if you're one of these 155 and you are a member of DealerRefresh, please log in. If you've forgotten your username, password, contact me directly, send me a direct message, hit me up on Facebook, whatever you got to do. We'll get that taken care of for you.
Guys make it easy. There's easy with the Facebook login button.
Exactly. And if you're one of those infamous lurkers that we have a lot of, let's just grab all the information we can and never give back, which is fine.
No. It's this week has been an interesting one in people reaching out. I've had a number of folks reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, asking if I would pose a question on DealerRefresh. And I ask them why don't you pose it yourself? It's a question to ask.
A lot throughout the years.
Yeah. And I think that some people are a little intimidated to go and post up. Maybe there's, I like to think that we're welcoming, and we certainly like new people to come on board and join in the community with us. If there's something we're not doing right or not being welcoming enough, reach out. We're happy to
Dude, your inbox just is about to blow up.
I hope so. I hope so. It's Alex at DealerRefresh.com.
No, but if you are a lurker, jump in and please sign up, become part of the community. Just don't. But no, you're right. I've had throughout the years many uh, people that work at a dealership, and they go, "Well, I don't want my GM to know that I'm on here," or "I don't want someone else at the dealership," or I've even had because someone wants to post something maybe that questions a vendor out there, and the vendor finds out, and this is a true story, and they call up their GM, and the GM, of course, was completely unaware of DealerRefresh, and here's their vendor basically tattletaling, on the internet sales manager, whoever at the dealership, and they contact me and say, "Hey Jeff, can you take this completely down?" Which is something that we very rarely do on DealerRefresh. If you put it up, it's up there. We're not going to take it down. So it has happened. It has happened. But, move with it. Just sign up, become a member of the community. So that's interesting stuff.
It might be the best thing you ever do.
It could be. That's interesting stuff around the ad safety. Something I guess I've followed, I've heard of.
Yeah. I mean, well,
I didn't realize there was such a term. And again, it's because it's your term, copyrighted, of course. And
I wish it was. I'm pretty sure that is.
Yeah.
But here's a stat for you that is, we can sort of end on that note too.
We've got some final questions for you.
No. I'm saying on the ad safety.
On this topic.
Okay.
But we've blocked over 900 million impressions. 900 million impressions since December.
Is that supposed to make us
on your ads?
No.
So would that be
so
impressions of like display ads?
Yep, exactly. So what would have been serving an ad to somebody who would have had no car buying intentions?
Yeah.
We've blocked that and saved that money for the advertiser, which is
why would it get served? Hopefully if you're running a smart display or retargeting, of course, retargeting, that's a little bit different game there.
Yeah, but retargeting is different.
Yeah, but would you, yes and no, but would you prevent that ad from showing up, even though it's retargeting? Would you still prevent that ad from showing up on particular websites?
Yeah, if it comes through from White Ops, and White Ops is saying like, hey, listen, we suspect that this impression is not legit.
Yeah.
We'll just be conservative about it, right, to save that money for that impression service.
So any dealerships that's out there running a display campaign should get with the vendor that they're using and ask them,
what are you doing about this?
What are you doing? Are you using tag? Are you using the what was it called? White Ops?
Right. I think there's other solutions that vendors could work with to sort of achieve similar results. My concern mostly revolves around, and that's not, this isn't to sort of dismiss the small mom and pop agencies like kind of around the world, but they don't have the same sort of ability. It costs a lot of money, right, to work with these huge things. And I think that, if you're working with really small vendors that aren't using technology that maybe has the same sort of capabilities, it's easy for these things to like pass through the cracks. And honestly, it's like Office Space a little bit, where they built that worm, right, that bites off like a couple pennies at a time, but like over like a long period of time, it really sort of affects the overall ad budget. That's what we're trying to prevent for our advertisers.
Okay. So speaking of display, what's some of your best practices around display? And the reason why I bring this up, obviously it falls right in line with the conversation, but with display ads, I still love display advertising. I don't know why. Maybe I'm old school. I love that visual, love seeing my own ad, something that I've designed, created, something that has our dealership on it, whatever it may be. There's still something about display advertising that I love. I know the click-through rate typically is, when compared to other forms of advertising, sort of sucks if you're going to compare it.
Sort of.
Which you shouldn't.
That shouldn't even be like, outside of retargeting, that shouldn't even be one of the KPIs that you're measuring against.
Exactly. But it's difficult to, it's difficult to measure your display. It's almost like that billboard that's out there on Route 1 that, the customer drives by, 3 times a day, et cetera. So, but with that, what are some best practices? Because again, we're in the midst of potentially changing out the agency that we're using for our display.
Sure.
And the manufacturer has some really some good co-op programs. But I'm actually don't want to go with the co-op programs, because my fear and what I've seen in the past is when you go with the co-op programs, of course, you've got to go with the design that the manufacturer wants. And typically your display ads are for the manufacturer. It's the manufacturer's name. So it's Honda, it's the incentive. And then the dealership name is like really, really small. And it's basically just branding the manufacturer and of course, whatever incentive is going on. And that's, for me, that's the exact opposite, pretty much the exact opposite that I want to use display advertising for.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bring up kind of several points here, and, maybe that, we can sort of wax philosophical on this a little bit. I think that in one regards, you need to, as a dealer advertiser, you need to have some sort of consistency in that messaging from tier 1 to tier 3, because again, think of everybody else. Nobody knows that, like, they assume that Ford is advertising kind of for everyone. And if you land people on inconsistent experiences, like if someone's seeing like a truckuary ad, right, whatever it is, that the tier 1 agency is promoting on like Super Bowl day, and like, but then they look at, Jeff Kirshner's dealership, and there's a completely sort of different messaging around what's happening at the tier 1 level. That inconsistency creates a lower quality experience, and people have a tendency to bounce out of those experiences. So there's a spot. So what I'm saying is there's a spot for you to ride the juice of the tier 1 agencies, because what they do is, I mean, we as car dealers, we don't have the money to like buy a Super Bowl spot, right? Or do all of this national branding. You do get some of that juice when you have that consistency. What I do though, this is a piece where I think that there's a lot where the dealership itself has the ability to sort of build its own branding, and where display ads, I feel, are kind of most effective. That's creating demand and sort of building a brand experience. I think of them very, very similarly to the billboards or to television, right? Outside of retargeting. Retargeting is its own sort of beast, but like that sort of like traditional demand generation piece. My recommendation is, I think you can do that advertising most effectively if you're doing it programmatically and you're working with a technology that's hooked into multiple ad networks. That's kind of my own personal opinion. And however that bidding technology is informed is also a pretty important piece as well.
Well, can we, as we're getting down to the last 10 minutes here, we've got a couple of other questions for you, Andy.
Sure, hit me.
Well, before we hit that,
go there, yeah.
What's that?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to capitalize on what Andy was saying. I totally agree. I know some of the best performing dealerships that I've worked for was whenever we would basically mimic what the manufacturer is doing from an incentive side. When you came to the dealership website, we were we were tapped right into what the manufacturer is doing. And it did. I mean, we would only see a nice uptick in conversion. So I agree with you 100% on that. But at the same time, you know, we've used that opportunity to really just brand the dealership, brand the message that we've got. Right now I've got some campaigns that are running where we use our reviews. So, you know, we're talking about our Dealer Rater reviews. We're Maryland Mercedes Dealer of the Year. And believe it or not, we actually land the customer, the click-through actually lands on our Dealer Rater page. I know some people go, well, that is insane. That is just crazy. But, you know, we've got connections hooked up, and we actually see some pretty good traffic coming from those ads. And then people are contacting our particular salespeople personally using the connections piece. So something different, but yeah, take the opportunity to really brand the dealership.
Yeah, and that's the fun part about display advertising is you can really sort of unleash. If you're not an artistic person yourself, you can use things like we've got a content and creative team that will work with you for specialized sort of advertising ideas. So that it really is a place that you can sort of let your creative juices flow a little bit more than you know, a paid search ad.
Yeah, I enjoy it. So Alex, sorry to cut you off, bro. Some questions. We typically end with some fun questions. And Andy, this is your first time on with us, so we'll have some fun with it. Go ahead, Alex.
and that was definitely worth getting in there, Jeff. That's a pretty cool idea. So yeah, first one, Andy. What was your first car?
My first car was an Isuzu Trooper, and I love that thing. I still have dreams about that car, and one day when I hit it rich, I'm going to find a pristine 1989 Isuzu Trooper. I drove it to 415,000 miles, and the transmission died on it. I mean, the body was rotted to holy hell too. It was made of Bondo and like.
Was it a stick?
It was a stick. It was a 5-speed. It had an inline 4-cylinder with 0 guts, but like a whole bunch of good intention. And like it's a car that sticks with me a lot, sort of moving forward.
No, they were great. My friend had a Trooper in school, and
it was like you could sneeze wrong and it'd tip over. Like it was everything. It was like everything that like a super boxy SUV you really wanted out of it.
I tell you, there's something there's a vehicle that I want really bad, and for some odd reason, the value on these things have spiked. And at one point, they were like the most dangerous vehicle on the road. The Suzuki Samurai.
Oh, I was going to say the same.
My dad still has one
for a Suzuki Samurai. I mean, what a fun freaking vehicle. I mean, everyone's got their Jeeps, but man, a manual shift Suzuki Samurai.
Yeah, and the center of gravity. Yeah.
The other part is that Samurai won't go over like 45 miles an hour.
So, yeah, love that vehicle. What are you driving now?
Just bought a 2018 GMC Sierra. I got the like Spec Ops package in it, so I got the 6.2 liter that you normally get in the Denali, but got it in the sort of off-road.
So you're going to support the company that killed the Trooper?
Yeah,
no, it's terrible. Terrible. Hopefully support the company that's going to help our company too.
Oh yeah.
Now, what's that thing get? What, about 8 miles per gallon?
If you're driving 1 mile an hour.
Gotcha. Excellent.
So are you binge watching anything, Andy? Or what was the last thing you did?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Well, I'll tell you what I'm saving up, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're a psycho, you've got to watch this right now." I've never seen Breaking Bad, so like I'm dying to watch that. But I just watched through The Wire on from HBO, which again was like mind-blowingly good. That was just such.
Didn't they go back and digitally remaster those, if I'm not mistaken? They just re-released them and on digital. I guess they just, they upgraded to the 4K or whatever.
Yeah.
That's actually based in I don't want to say my backyard, but it's based in Baltimore.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And they obviously got to do a little bit of the research on that. They hired real Baltimore people to be in that show. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I never watched it, but I've got some friends that live in Baltimore, and it's still today, one of their favorite shows.
Religious.
I can't believe you haven't watched Breaking Bad. I've went on, when that ended, I felt like I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with myself.
Are you still wondering?
I literally went through a small state of depression when the last episode.
I totally know the feeling.
And I've got, I geeked out on it. I really did. I've got the full Blu-ray DVD. It comes in the big canister. It's got a bunch of different things. It's got stickers and pins and everything behind the scenes. It was $300 and some odd. It was really, really expensive. But I don't even know if you can still get it. It's a full collection. Yeah. And then on top of that, I got a bunch of just neat collector's items with Breaking Bad, and I even have it's rock candy, but it's blue, and it's sort of made look like meth. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy that. You got to jump on that one. That one.
All right. Well, last one for you, Andy.
Yeah. Hit me.
Anything you've been doing super fun this summer, or any vices that have kicked up this summer?
Yeah, for me, it's, I travel a ton for work. And so, one of the things that, you're familiar with is the 3.5 weeks that we have of summer in Vermont. You don't want to be anywhere else, just because, I'll go toe to toe. Burlington and Vermont in the summertime is one of the best places on earth. It's, it's great. And for me, my activity, it's both my vice and my favorite activity is getting out on Lake Champlain on my boat. That's my favorite thing to do. And I say it's my vice because it's also just the poorest economic decision that you can make. Purchasing
a boat.
Everything,
especially up there.
I know anything that happens with it is nail biting on how expensive the bill is going to be. But getting out there and being out on Lake Champlain with your friends, got a golden retriever that loves the water, and just doing that thing has been my favorite summer activity when I'm not traveling around the country here.
Something about boats, man. People love boats. It's just once you get on a boat, it's hand me a beverage,
a Coors Light,
and
that's where Coors Lights make sense.
That's right. We call those? We call those sport beers.
I call it water.
Well, Andy, thank you so much. We'll wrap this up. It's right at 2:00, so it's perfect. We definitely appreciate your time.
Yeah, and did you guys want to hit on anything else while you got me kind of on the thing here?
No, we could probably go on for hours. We could do a Joe Rogan. It'll be 3-hour long podcast, or
that would be fun. Does Joe Rogan?
No, I'd rather take the opportunity and have you back on. We'll pick some additional topics and we'll just dive into those. So I believe we're definitely filled up for this month, and I think we're almost filled up for September, right, Alex?
Yeah. So actually, next week we've got Alexander Lau and Craig Hugheim, and Craig's commenting away over here already, so he's getting prepared.
So we got two long-time DealerRefresh members next week. That's going to be fun.
Yep, we've got no topic, so who the hell knows where this is going to go?
I'm sure we'll have something set between now and Friday.
And then, we do have 2 others. I'll announce the rest of August real quick. So Dealer Authorities, Erica Sims will be on the week after, and then we'll finish August with one of our favorites, Jim Ziegler. Yes,
The
the alpha dog. That's
the
right.
alpha dog.
That's
Who
right.
scheduled that? Who scheduled
Actually,
that?
big shout out to Dealer Authority on that one too. They put us together on that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna make sure to tune in for that one.
That one scares me. That one
yeah.
So, but speaking of, so next week and moving forward, we've got, be sure to tune in. We've got some free Digital Dealer 25 tickets to give away. So we're going to be giving those away. We've got, I think, a nice handful to give away. So over the next couple Refresh Fridays, which of course Digital Dealer is October 16th through the 18th, we'll be giving those tickets away. If you can't wait and you want to save an extra $200 at Digital Dealer 25, head over to DealerRefresh, click on the ad, and if you follow that, you will get a code that you can go ahead and register right from Digital Dealer, and it's just one special page that we've got built up. Special, I guess, just we always get together with the crew over there and put something together. So $200 off. You can go ahead and register, or stick around. See you next week on Refresh Friday as we give away a free ticket.
Yeah, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. McCleary.
See everyone next week. Thanks.
Thank you.